I was on my late night thirsty. Cause it was late night and I was thirsty. Roll that beautiful bean footage.
They hear him. Down goes Frazier. Down goes Frazier.
Hey, check it out. Before we begin, I want you to hit that like button. I want you to press follow if you're not already following. And don't forget to leave a comment. I guess I need to start reminding people at the beginning of the videos or something like that. Anyways, what's up with it, fam? It's Hot Boxing Minute, your favorite pharmaceutical engineer turned boxing analyst, back at you with what? That uncut, that raw, that real, that truth in the booth, that elixir for the fixture. Here to talk about boxing. We're going to talk about the fights coming up this week. Now, in my previous video, I already discussed the big fight, the undisputed lightweight championship fight between George Kambosos Jr. and Devin the Dream Haney going on out there in Marvel Stadium in Melbourne, Australia. So I'm not going to talk about that fight because this fight week was jam-packed with great cards. The fight I want to talk about right now are the other two main fights that are coming up. Stephen Fulton Jr. against Daniel Roman, and of course, Naoya Inoue, the monster of Japan, against Nonito Donaire. Let's start off with the fight between Nonito Donaire and Naoya Inoue, the monster. Now, this is one of the most, for those of you who caught it the first time around, it was one of the most amazing fights ever. Listen, if you haven't seen the first fight between Naoya Inoue and Nonito Donaire that was back in 2019, I suggest you go back into the YouTube archives and check it out. It was the finale to the World Boxing Super Series, and it was the fight of the year. Monster Inoue got his eye socket cracked. It was a violent affair. Now, when it comes to, in addition to Naoya Inoue being extraordinarily skilled with knockout power, he has grit. Mind you, in that last fight with Nonito Donaire, he had his eye socket broken in the second round of their fight, and he still won it on points. He didn't do the Billy Joe Saunders thing and give up. He sat there eyeball all bloody, barely able to see, and still won the fight. Monster Inoue is on some kamikaze boxer, straight legacy stuff. It's amazing to watch. And I think any sensible boxing fan who pays attention to the lighter divisions is excited at the opportunity to see a 39-year-old guy like Nonito Donaire, who is a certifiable legend. Don't you get it twisted, folks. I'm pretty sure that if it wasn't for guys like Manny Pacquiao being an 8th division legacy type of boxing champion, Nonito Donaire would be a lot more famous in boxing popular culture. He kind of came around just a little bit after Manny Pacquiao came into the game, but regardless, Nonito Donaire has had an amazing career himself and has been a champion in 4 different divisions. That's nothing to scoff at, folks. Nonito Donaire has given us some amazing fights. Nonito Donaire has legit given us classics. He had fights with Vic Darchinyan, Travieso Arce, Wilfredo Vasquez Jr. He's a force to be reckoned with in that bantamweight, super bantamweight division. The only time we've ever really seen him have troubles is when he moves up to featherweight division out there in the 122 kind of weight class when he had troubles with Nicholas Walters and Guillermo Rigondeaux. Clearly, he's a smaller dude and he wasn't built for the bigger weight classes, but when he's back down at his sweet spot, that 118 and sub weight class, he's knocking people out. Now, even though he might be 39 years old and boxing has this thing about age, he recently came off 2 highlight reel knockout finishes. Who were the opponents' names? I remember one of them was Nordine Ubali. Oh, Raymar Gaballo and Nordine Ubali. So clearly, Nonito Donaire has taken to aging quite well. Some fighters are capable of using their age and their experience to benefit them in the ring. Other fighters just gradually decay with time exponentially. But we've seen Nonito Donaire take all of his time and his experience to almost essentially slow things down in the ring. And he is still, at 39 years old, getting highlight reel knockouts of young studs in the game. That's nothing to scoff at. And of course, there is Naoya Inoue consistently getting crazy knockouts. Now, the thing about this fight between Nonito Donaire and Naoya Inoue, Nonito Donaire is the last person to take Monster Inoue the whole distance in a fight. The fights before Nonito Donaire and the fights afterwards have pretty much been Naoya Inoue steamrolling his competition. That speaks volumes. That speaks volumes to the kind of opponent that Nonito Donaire presents to Naoya Inoue. Naoya Inoue's knocking out everybody except for Nonito Donaire in their last fight. That was the last fight that went the distance. So you know this is going to be a fun fight. Will it be the same fight we saw in 2019? Who knows? Who knows? We know that Nonito Donaire still has that amazing check left hook. Now, he is definitely a little bit slower, but he's a lot more calculated. He's a lot more patient. He waits for those openings. He's not going to rush his work. Maybe Naoya Inoue will press his youth and use his vitality to his advantage, because Naoya Inoue, I think, is eager to make a point in his fight against Nonito Donaire. So far, under top rank, Naoya Inoue's career has been a little bit subpar, to say the least. And that's not to take anything away from, Bob Arum, but there's a part of me that says that Naoya Inoue under top rank has been horrifyingly mismanaged. We know more, or the general boxing public knows more about Nico Ali Walsh, no shade to Nico Ali Walsh, than they know about the triumphs of a 3-division boxing phenom named Naoya Inoue. Oh yeah, folks, it's summertime. It's starting to get nice and toasty, so I got to break out the towel. I got the water. I'm ready to go. Yeah, so Naoya Inoue, although being horrifyingly mismanaged by Top Rank, now Top Rank could have easily promoted him a lot better than they did, but instead they've gone the direction of promoting Nico Ali Walsh for whatever reason. No shade to Nico Ali Walsh, but we have yet to see what kind of talent Nico Ali Walsh will turn out being. We know, without a doubt, that Naoya Inoue is a generational talent and a very rare breed of athlete. So, going into this amazing fight between Nonito Donaire and Naoya Inoue, as much as I love Nonito Donaire, I think this fight's going to be in Naoya Inoue's favor. Naoya Inoue has shown only constant improvement in his technique, in his balance, in his execution since his last fight with Nonito Donaire. Not that Nonito Donaire has not shown significant leaps and bounds in improvement, because his shot selection is amongst the best in the game, and he will find open, clean shots to land on Naoya Inoue. But I think this one is just going to go to that young, explosive, young phenom, Naoya Inoue. And I would pick Naoya Inoue to possibly win by a stoppage, folks. It might be a stoppage, but man, what an amazing myth it would be. An amazing legend it would be if Nonito Donaire somehow pulled out this win. Anyways, I'm rooting for both, but I'm definitely leaning towards Naoya Inoue to win. So, let's talk about the next fight coming up this weekend. Actually, it's not even the one later. The Naoya Inoue Nonito Donaire fight is going to be at Saitama Stadium coming up next Tuesday, because Japanese have weird time things going on with their fights. It's going to air, I want to say, 5:30 a.m. either Monday or Tuesday morning, if I'm not mistaken. I think it's the day before. I don't really know, but it's going to be like 5 in the morning California time. So keep an eye out for that. I'm going to try my best to stay up and catch that fight. Now, at the Armory in Minneapolis, we've got the return of Cool Boy Steph, Stephen Fulton Jr., the unified super bantamweight champion. He'll be defending his unified straps against Daniel Roman, the former unified champion himself. Now, this is going to be an awesome matchup. Cool Boy Steph, Stephen Fulton Jr. is really building up a resume that's going to crack him in a pound-for-pound list if he keeps winning. And this Daniel Roman is one of his greatest tests ever. Daniel Roman isn't a champion at the moment, but he was the former unified champion. And skill for skill, he is no exception to Stephen Fulton's recent run of fighting very, very tough opposition. So you got to give it up to Stephen Fulton for constantly fighting the best of the best in his division. Cool Boy Steph, his last list of recent opposition are some of the toughest in his division. Angelo Leo, Brandon Figueroa, those were the two champions he beat to become the unified champion, and now he has to fight Danny Roman in order to open up the door for a possible undisputed fight with MJ Akhmadaliev. But guess what? Daniel Roman wants to become a champion again in that division, and he is definitely a very live dog in this affair. Danny Roman is a technical dude. Most of those little guys are. I wouldn't say he is quite as refined as, say, Stephen Fulton Jr., but he definitely has, I would say, more punch, more pop in his hands than Stephen Fulton Jr., but we know Stephen Fulton will style on opponents. He can fight on the front foot. He's really effective on the back foot. He can fight on the inside. He can fight on the outside. Daniel Roman has all those same abilities. I don't know if he can fight on the back foot as well as Stephen Fulton Jr., but he can move backwards and counter shot decently enough. I definitely wouldn't say it's as good as Stephen Fulton's skill set, but this is definitely going to be one of those matchups you don't want to miss. And as far as Stephen Fulton Jr. against Danny Roman, I'm going to have to lean in favor of Stephen Fulton Jr. I think he might actually pull off this win. I think Stephen Fulton Jr. is really going to line himself up to get that fight with NJ Akhmadaliev later on this year, as if we haven't had enough undisputed fights, we get even more. We're just getting spoiled as boxing fans, but that's my choice, y'all. Stephen Fulton Jr. I think is going to win this by 12-round unanimous decision against Daniel Roman. How do you think that fight turns out? Let me know in the comments section, y'all. Let's chop this up. All right, y'all. That's going to be it for this quick video. Like I said, hit that like, leave me a comment, hit follow if you haven't already done so. This is Hot Boxing Minute, the future of boxing analysis on YouTube. Peace.